How do you see your role as DA?
I see my role as DA. Main the main purpose is to ensure a safe community, and that is achieved and done in various ways. Traditionally, that has been done through the prosecution of crime. That is something that I will continue, especially violent crime. But I also think, as a progressive prosecutor, it has been found that prevention measures also help to keep a community safe. Prevention measures, as well as presenting opportunities of community support rather than correctional control. I think what we have going on, and the reason why we're seeing the crime that we see specifically in the Macon Judicial Circuit, is that we have a lot of untreated trauma communities that have just individuals who have been victimized by the criminal justice system, by their circumstances, and that victimization has gone untreated. And so, a part of what I want to do and what I will do as district attorney is to make sure that we deal with the underlying issues and that we don't have assembly line justice, but more of a holistic approach. How did this person, get to this office? Especially when you're talking about children, asking those questions. What their home environment is like, what it's been like, so that we can try to treat that trauma, and we can help to heal on a holistic approach, so that when we return folks to our communities, they are returned, with hope. They are returned with healing. They are returned with community support.
You touched on so many great things right there. Speaking of trauma, though, and I know you said we ask about their home life, but what about these communities who have been generationally traumatized? Like, how do you break that cycle?
Okay, you break that cycle one family at a time, and I think that is important to look at the family unit. Oftentimes, we have offered, say, life skill classes or community support to maybe a child who is at risk. Even maybe a child who has committed a certain type of criminal offense, but then you're putting them back in the same environment. And so I think the best outcome for success is that you treat the entire family. And the way that we deal with these systemic issues of marginalized communities is one family at a time.
We are in a kind of fraught political climate and just a
Mhm.
non-trusting of the system climate. So how do you fix that damaged relationship, especially when you're talking about the justice system and minority communities?
I believe that you start by building the trust of the community, and a community is not going to trust you if they don't know you. You, I cannot and will not be a district attorney that simply governs from the courthouse. Getting out in the community, making sure that the community knows who I am, and you begin to build that trust, because we have a broken criminal justice system that has eroded at the public trust. And I believe the way that we begin to gain that back is through truth and transparency.
We are in a system that is disproportionately affecting Black and Brown people. No secret, you are a Black woman. Do you think that is a conflict, or do you think that is a way for people to shift the way they see the system?
I think it is a way. I also think, because I think that people will be able to better relate. Again, not just it's important to have diversity in all avenues of life, but that diversity, what that brings about is just a different perspective. So you not only have obviously a district attorney that has a law degree and that's qualified, that's a career prosecutor, you get the added benefit of having a district attorney that has a different perspective based on, my diverse background as a person of color, as a woman. And so that perspective, the more perspectives that you can have in a room, I believe the better outcome that you'll get for entire community.
What are some of the ways that you personally want to start building that trust? Like, what's the first thing you're going to do to kind of mend those relationships?
Individuals from the community from Bibb, Crawford, and Peach counties. And one thing that we're going to start to focus on and work on within the first quarter of 2021 is the district attorney case flow analysis. We know that we have a criminal justice system that has disproportionately affected African Americans, people of color, and individuals from lower socioeconomic statuses. But what does that mean for specifically for the Macon Judicial Circuit? Where are we, and where do what are the goals? What do we want the numbers to look like? So actually looking at the data to determine where we are and how do we promote equitable outcomes for all. Because being a career prosecutor, I've seen many many families in different stages or in different at different levels. And so if you have a family who say they have a young adult who is committing nonviolent offenses, such as entering auto or shoplifting or things of that nature, but it's to support a drug habit. You have a family that comes and says, well, to the prosecutor, we can afford this program for our son, a inpatient drug, but then you has the same kind of issues, but they're not similar financially, and they can't afford that program. So I believe it's my job as district attorney to make sure that we have equitable outcomes for all, that people are going to prison not because they can't afford alternative programs, but they're going to prison because those are the folks that that compromise the safety of our community, and it would be unsafe for them to be treated in the community. And that's not what we have with our criminal justice system. So making sure that we identify ways to promote equitable outcomes for all. That to me is the only way to begin to heal this broken system that we have.